Hello and welcome to Theme Park Information. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe for more content. On today's show we've got a review for Hyperia, located at Thorpe Park, just outside London in the UK. Now this is the park's newest coaster, opening this year in 2024, and I will say, ticks a lot of boxes. It's a tourist coaster in the UK. It has a really good drop and a pretty interesting layout for the most part. Now, I have heard several complaints and concerns, mainly to do with the length, and it does seem not short. It just feels that it could be a bit longer. And I also will say it could do with being a touch less trimmed. And again, I think that the trims kind of equal the fact that this ride could have been. I'm not saying it should be massively longer, but it could just be slightly longer. But I do appreciate that would then have an impact on like the capacity, and obviously them trying to run like the two trains and stuff like that, and then you then get into all sorts of extra sort of criteria, which were probably in fairness looked at. But obviously they've gone with a really good, really creative sort of approach to it. I think the ride, the elements it does have really pop. They really are interesting. I will say, sadly, this ride does have assigned seats, which is a definite negative. Really dislike the fact I can't choose to queue for the front row, or I can't choose to queue for the back row. Would really like it if that is an option they go for in the future. I appreciate that that will possibly cause some issues where lots of people go in for the front. But I always hate the fact that rides do that and then you cannot just request the back row, for example. Which is why we get row 5 twice. Love to know the odds on that one. But yeah, the train design, fantastic. Loads of space, really open, really exposed. Love that. Yeah, really comfortable. The ride itself is extremely smooth, very rideable. Obviously, it's brand new, so it does have a rather long line. It was looking, I think the shortest I did see it was an hour, but it was approaching like 2 hours at quite a few points throughout the day. But that makes sense. It's a brand new ride. It's very much, it's been marketed really well, and it's a signature coaster. So do us appreciate that. I will say the queue line is a touch boring and drab at the moment. It is just like a set of cattle pens, and then it does open up a little bit, and it doesn't really have much to look at. It doesn't really have any theming. Not great. I appreciate that this again is probably something that they may improve in the off season. They might fresh out the area a bit, give people more things to look at. Just bring it a nice some plants and stuff like that. Some theming elements would be brilliant. I will say one really small observation which really appreciated is for the queue line. There is actually about halfway through there is actually a food outlet, and they've actually added a window on the side of it so you can get stuff while you're in the queue, which is a really clever idea because it means it could be open for the normal area most of the time, but then it can be used to support the queue if needed, which is a really brilliant placement on that and actually deserves some praise. The ride had really good operations. It was running 2 trains, and they were dispatching them at really good regular intervals. It has the ability where you can bring your bags into station with you. There is lockers in the station, which is great. The assigned seats not a fan of, and I also will say obviously the queue does move relatively quickly. You always feel like you're kind of moving, but really weirdly, right when you get towards like the steps up to the station, it then goes really slowly there, because that is when the sort of fast pass and single line queues kind of merge. And for whatever reason, you just seem to really slow down around that sort of point. The ride did unfortunately have like a temporary breakdown of 20 minutes, but it was fixed pretty quickly. And as another thing for Thorpe Park, they did actually at least announce what was happening and keep people in the queue line informed. I hate it when you just literally get radio silence and hear nothing. Really good from them, keeping them updated on that. So, actually onto the ride itself, probably should talk about it at some point. The first drop where you just curl over on yourself is fantastic. You pick up so much speed, and then you kind of go into a sort of really interesting sort of element, but you kind of flip out a bit early and then get great airtime on the way down. And then, in all honesty, probably the only part of the ride which really stands out to me, it's so good, is the sort of outer bank where you are just kind of out your seat but really controlledly for the entire time. you're out there to start with as like an airtime moment, and then you twist under into an inversion. And that element is so good. If you have a tiny bit of space, really enjoyable. Such a hands-up moment. It's really, really, really good. Then you have the stall. Now, I will say for the UK, the stall is very unique and interesting. Sadly, I've been on quite a few around the world at this point, so it didn't quite hit home as much, but it is a really good stall. It's really long, it's really sustained, and you keep pace through it quite well. You then drop out of that, and then you hit some trim brakes, which do hit hard. Now, I do think at some point there will be like a water effect. It could also maybe do some theming around this sort of area. And then you have an off-axis airtime hill. Well, you do get airtime in fairness. It's a reasonable hill. You then have a turn and then a little bunny hill intersection. I will annoyingly say the trim brakes probably do hit a bit too hard before everyone clears that hill. I do feel that they could be slightly further back, but I do appreciate, obviously ride operations and safety do probably take precedent over a bit of airtime. So I say, this ride has solid length, really good elements, really standout elements. I say the outer bank is superb. I say it has lots of large scale elements which really work nicely. It's probably the best coaster in the UK. Not sure at the moment where it ranks. It probably would get like a score of like 88 out of 100. Ticks a lot of boxes. Sadly, I'd love to have ridden it in either the front row or back row, but I'd say that assigned seating and like will always kind of hold it down a bit. It's always just going to be the sort of thing which is just frowned upon. Don't like it personally. But yeah, anyway, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.